So Mathapelo, thank you so much for making time to share your insights into the future of leadership.
You're most welcome, and thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. But before we walk into the future, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where did you grow? Where did you grow up?
Well, so just to let you know a little bit about myself, my name is Mathapelo. I'm 34 years old, and I'm the founder and CEO of Mathapelo, which is an affluent women's female brand. It's a digital online brand, and I grew up in east part of Johannesburg, which is known as Ekurhuleni, and pretty much spent my time there until I was in my, I would say, late teens towards young adulthood. Then I moved to like Central Joburg.
And tell us, Mathapelo, what was your dream career when you grew up?
Oh man, you know, growing up, I loved cooking, and my mother is a great cook, and she taught me how to cook. And in my head, one thing I knew was that I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. But then back then, I thought I was going to be a restaurateur, and I was just adamant that I was going to own a restaurant one day, and possibly maybe I might go into owning a restaurant one day. But that was what I wanted to do when I grew up. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and particularly in the food industry, though.
Right. And tell me, who inspired you in your early days?
In my early days, you know, I took a lot of inspiration from a lot of people, my parents, you know, my father has always been someone that dabbled a little bit in business as well as working. And then, you know, just keynotes of people that I really, you know, admired while growing up, you know, be the likes of Oprah Winfrey, the likes of Jack Ma, because, you know, I always felt like those kind of people had, you know, they always said to the precedent that, you know, you can dream bigger than where you are. And I remember one of Oprah's quotes that I always lived by was that God has a bigger dream for yourself than you could ever dream, you know. Right. So it's something that it's people that I really looked up to.
And what inspired you to create your own brand?
You know, I always say that my brand actually found me accidentally. Right. You know, at first when I started my business, I was only doing it. I was just basically selling someone else's brand and just basically making extra money on the side. And as I continued with the business, I realized that actually I wanted to start designing my own shoes instead of selling someone else's, you know, designs. And one of the things I had to think about was, do I want to be just a shoe brand? Because I can easily just open a shoe store and just sell shoes. Or do I want to be a shoe brand or build a brand that would outlive me, instead of, you know, if I die tomorrow, the shop can just close and that's it. So that's when I decided, and I think I got inspired to say, let me start my own brand, because I want to have a brand that could outlive me and I could leave a legacy behind.
And I believe, Mathapelo, you were inspired by French couture. You obviously chose a French name for your brand.
Yeah, no, I was quite fortunate that I worked for a French company before I applied for my job to be the founder and CEO of Mathapelo. And, you know, behind the name as well, the business is called I Love Love, if you translate it. So I needed to find something very exotic, yet would be very memorable, but at the same time, it had to have deeper meaning. And, you know, I always believe that everything that I do, whether it be in my designs, whether it be in personal workspace, or even if anything I do for other people, I always do it out of love. And I always wanted to have a brand whereby if someone had the product in their hand, they had to fall in love with the purchase that they've made. And yeah, and that's where the actual story started.
So Mathapelo, looking back over your career, would you say there was a major turning point where things could have gone different?
When I look at, I think, you know, my path has actually taken its steps. accordingly, because I don't think I would have gone a different way. No, actually I lied. Actually, if I really think about my path, at one point I wanted to be a flight attendant.
Right.
And I had applied to work for Emirates, and I actually scored everything else except that I'm a very petite human being. So I didn't really reach up when it came to the height division. But I think had I not gotten, if I had gotten that opportunity, I don't think I would have been a shoe designer. But when I look back on how things have turned out, and from the experiences I've gotten from working in the different corporate companies, I think I'm very happy that I am where I am right now.
And tell us, Mathapelo, what is driving you today?
Oh man, geez, a lot of things, drive me to be who I am. I think it's number one is the thought of endless possibilities. I could go in, starting a shoe brand. I think we're in an era right now whereby it's now starting to be a little bit easier and more possible for women to start go into business, whether it be men, but also as an African child, I can actually now dream of having my own business that could be listed one day, that could mean something, that could outlive me. Because most of the times when growing up, you never really thought that you could run a business. It was always a mindset that you got to work for somebody instead of working for yourself or creating employment for other people. So my drive right now is the endless possibilities that I have, in my industry, whether it be with my brand, whether it be with my future, plans that I have.
Now, looking into the future, Mathapelo, you are a leader in your own industry, you're a leader in the fashion industry, and you're also aspiring to be a leader in the manufacturing industry, right?
That's correct.
So tell us, what does the future of leadership mean to you?
The future of leadership for me, it means being able to dream, being able to be resourceful, being able to think outside of yourself as an individual, being able to, create jobs that that would outlive you or your own vision. Being a leader for me, being able to show other people that they can dream as well. They can, because I think everywhere in any industry that you go into, you must always strive to be someone that can, lead or inspire the next generation. You don't want to be just a monopoly of a company that you're not inspiring other people to dream or to be better than you or to be your counterparts. So that's the future for me, what I see in leadership.
And Mathapelo, what have you learned from your own journey that you consider most important for building future leaders?
Yeah, I think, for building future leaders is the first thing is one has to be innovative. Even if you can't change the shape of the wheel, but then you have to be innovative in terms of how can the wheel work better, or how can the wheel be collaborative with other brands. And being a future leader, you need to be innovative, because if you really think about my industry, I sell shoes. There's been many companies that sell shoes. My competitors are everyone from clothing stores, shoemakers, and because now it's also a saturated industry, doesn't mean that I cannot be innovative and I cannot go into the industry. So for me, leadership is about being innovative in terms of the future. Now,
let's talk about social media. You are active on social media, and I see you're already you are clearly adept at building your brand and building the business on social media or via social media. And I believe you had a little bit of controversy, possibly on Twitter. So what is your advice for future leaders? How should they handle and navigate social media to build their own brand?
Yeah. Social media is actually, or I would rather like to say digital media is actually a very good platform for anyone that wants to build a brand if you haven't a brand, because number one, you have free reach to the consumer. You don't have to wait for a consumer to come to your store. You don't have to wait. You don't have, it's basically, you have billions of people that you can reach at any point. And, if out of all those billion people, there's somebody willing to buy your product. You can't tell me that there isn't anybody willing to buy your product. If your product is good, there's someone to buy a product. As much as it's really good to sell through digital media, and that's how I started my brand, because it was through social media, having a website, and selling through other means of reaching my consumer through digitally. At the same time, one has to be careful how they use the social media spot, but also social media is a very good platform in terms of it gives you good reach to your consumer. It gives you good feedback, but at the same time, one, as an entrepreneur or as a leader, you need to be able to also take criticism. I like to put it. It's not bad feedback, but criticism from your consumer. And also it gives you a platform for you to understand your product better and what your consumer wants. So I remember when we started, going into the whole Twitter, when we started, it was it wasn't really a controversy, but it was more of, people trying to understand our story. Because when we started, we didn't name our story quite clear. We had issues with people saying, why would we choose a French name instead of a South African name, to build our brand? They would have wanted a name in Vanak. And obviously from us looking back, it was in the source that we never really told our story properly. We didn't tell our consumer. And I think one of the things as well that we had was our pricing point. It was not reachable. Again, it was a learning curve for us, just because our price is not reachable, it's because maybe our target markets didn't understand. We didn't advertise probably to our target market. We didn't tell our story, why we have our shoe price at a particular price. So social media is great. I really would advise someone who wants to go into business that social media, even if you're already in business, social media is the best platform, because it's a free platform for you to get a consumer insight, for you to be able to reach your consumer, to convert all those followers into potential sales in the future. And it's also the cheapest way of actually starting a business without having to have a big warehouse or have like a brick and mortar store to have people walk through your store. So basically you just have free reign to grow your business as much as you can. And also the most important thing, how we used social media, is that you can use it as a platform to collaborate with other people or other businesses as well.
Now, Mathapelo, these are challenges times, and obviously future leaders are bound to encounter challenges in their career. Can you maybe tell us what was the biggest challenge you encountered in your own career when building your brand?
Oh man, I think first of all, I would say my brand has been around since 2017, but then when I was building the brand back then, I was working a full-time job and just kind of straddling the business. And then I made the effort, and then eventually I decided to basically run the business myself full-time. And with that being said, having to build a business during COVID was a very, I would say, risky period. Number one, I think everyone is going through very trying times economically. So you're really fighting for your consumers' spending power with other competitors. And we came through as like a new brand and people didn't know about us and we had to try to sell ourselves. And, one thing I would say, those are a few challenges that we had. But if you really think about it, digitally, it was a very good time for us to come through into the market, because South Africa was a little bit slow on joining onto the online platform spaces in terms of purchasing the consumers. And when COVID hit, it actually we saw an evolution of consumers now fast tracking, moving from going into brick and mortar stores, but now learning and forcing themselves to now start using online platforms to purchase their products. So having the challenges of having to get through COVID, and as well, we had a lot of challenges. I mean, even with our products, when we were trying to get them in the country, that was also another challenge because of, borders not being readily available for consumers and delays from where we actually produce our goods.
And tell us, in your journey, what would you say are the most important skills that you acquired, that you learned, that helped you to build the business and the brand?
Yes. So, the one thing I think before anything else, besides it being a skill, I think being an entrepreneur or a leader, the first thing that you need to do is you have to be a visionary, someone that can, you must be able to have a vision of outside. You can't dream small, you have to dream big. So the first time you have to think, okay, if I'm going to start a brand, what do I compare this to? And when I started, I was like, one day I would love to be one of the big luxury brands, such as your Chanel, your Dior, your Louis Vuitton. And that was the vision I had. But then now it was like, okay, how do I then scale that down to how do I start off small and then work my way up? And that's where then you need to have the skill of being able to be resourceful, because being resourceful means that if you don't have funding, how are you going to get your funding for your business? Are you going to fund it out of your own pocket? Are you going to borrow money from your friends? Are you going to go to the bank? How are you going to be? So you have to be able to be resourceful. In terms of being resourceful to find your suppliers, you have to be able to know who you're going to be your suppliers. You need to be able to research where you're going to get your suppliers, who's your consumer. But also, I think on a more skill set is that you need to have a knack to have good administration skills as well as good negotiation skills, because administration skills really help you to, put structure into your business, because it could just be a business where if you don't have structure in terms of being able to think that, oh, my business needs to have a marketing division, a scaled down marketing division. It can even be your own marketing manager. It can be the jill of all trades when you start out, but you need to understand those basics, like, okay, we need to have a marketing division. We need to have administration whereby, okay, we are able to receive orders. How do we have a structure from the time the consumer is purchasing from the website to when it gets to us, to when the consumer gets the product? Those are the administration skills that you need to have. And, those are some of the skills that I learned, and also having good negotiation skills. And this goes in many directions. This goes in negotiating with your consumer, because the mere fact that your consumer is buying a product from you at a set price, that's already a negotiation skill, because now you're trying to convince your consumer to buy your product at that certain price. Being able to negotiate with your suppliers to sell your particular, raw material or product at a certain price so that you can put a markup and be able to sell. Negotiation skills as well come in with collaborating with other brands. For us, we collaborate with a lot of influencers so that we can convince them that our product is good for them to partner up with us, so that they can give us more reach through their own social platforms. So those would be the skills I would say are really on par. And one can learn on those, or really work on that could work in the longest run for them.
Now, Mathapelo, as a mentor to future leaders, can you maybe share? Can you share a success story or two when you mentored an upcoming leader, or maybe one of your employees, and that person took your advice to heart?
Oh yeah. I was quite fortunate that when I started my business, I used to run it all by myself. So I was the HR manager, I was the marketing, I was the jill of all trades. And then as I was running the business, and then I started getting a few ladies who were interested to be part of my brand, and they wanted to work and help me build the brand. So one of my mottos is that if you're gonna work with me, you have to, and I love working. The team that I work with is a team of 6 ladies, so it's an all woman I would say employed brand, but it's not that I choose to hire women. I haven't had any men wanting to work in a woman's brand. But one of the mottos that when I hire someone, or when they come to work for my company, is that I always want to make a difference in their lives, in terms of when you start working in my business, you need to also be able to start your own business. And I have 2 success stories whereby the lady that manages our social media platforms from our websites to Instagram, LinkedIn, you name it, all the platforms that we use to sell. And she's a 19-year-old. And when she started, she was like, hey, I don't have experience in anything, but I just want to be able to help you out with your business, with your social media management. You know, I know here, there. And I said, okay, if you're going to work for me, you need to be able to start your own social media agency, because if they can provide with the skill, then that means you can provide other people the skill. And yeah, she started working. She's been with me for about a year, and she started working. And at the age of 19, she has a whole full agency, her own communications agency brand, where she does social media management for other clients. And I am now her client, her first client, and there's other clients that she's doing that. And I have the same relationship as well with the lady that came in to join she wanted to do PR for me. And and I said, well, if you want to join, then you need to start your own. I want to see women get empowered outside being, you know, empowering me as well. And the same was, she also has her own PR agency, and she helps startups that are trying to get their brand out there, and she helps them. And I was like, that's I would say, my special or proudest moment that I have. It's having to have teams where I encourage other people to also start their own brand, to find their first love, to start their own brands, because I started my brand while working for someone else, you know.
Right.
So yeah.
And Mathapelo, you mentioned Oprah as an inspiration. Who else has influenced you? And who would you say are the role models of leadership that future leaders should learn from?
Yeah. Oh man. You know, I was quite fortunate. Oprah was the first one when I was in my early teens. And I got the opportunity to meet her. Traveled to Chicago in my early 20s. It was a beautiful experience. But I loved how she basically inspired women to go into any business line that they wanted to do, and, you know, paving the way that you could do anything that you wanted to do. You didn't have to be just a woman that stays home and takes care of kids. You could have a career. So for me, looking up to that was the start of me starting to dream big. And then right now, currently, and throughout my earlier mid-late 20s, I started having a great following for Jack Ma, who is the founder and CEO of Alibaba.
Right.
The reason he's a little bit more special to me, because my business, when I started going to my business, it actually was, you know, built on Alibaba, because I had to find my suppliers through Alibaba. And, you know, I would always like to tell people that they should grab actually one of his books that he has written, also biography about himself and how he built Alibaba. But for me, I love his resilience. From someone who didn't have a lot of skill set, has built $1 billion company that is, you know, especially it's beyond him, in a sense that I am in South Africa. This is a Chinese company somewhere, but then I've managed to have a success story based on his company, you understand? And for me, it's one of those things that if you can build a brand that can be successful, but also be able to build other people's brands or other people's brands, then it is surely remarkable that, you know, it is a story worth following. And with his, you know, special quotes that I always listen to, that, you know, he's always one to always invest in future generation, in hiring younger people, because they are the ones that are going to be running the economy. They're the ones that are going to be building new companies when we are gone or when we have retired. And, you know, he always speaks about the spirit of not giving up. Many a times we go into business, and the first signal or the smoke signal or the first sign of failure, we just call it quit. You know, and I've gone through that stage where I've just thought, oh my God, no, this is not for me. But then, I mean, he's failed numerous times, whereby he's failed more than 10 times, or being rejected left, right, and center. And I've also experienced being rejected or failing a few times. But then the biggest lesson out of that is, when you fall, even if you fall 10 times, the 11th time might be your win. So you just keep working on it and just stick and be focused on something.
Thank you. And Mathapelo, how can our listeners connect with you, and where should they follow you?
Oh yes. So our listeners can follow us. They can go on our website on www.jadotdiamo.com. That's where they can view our products and basically do purchases. But on social media, we are available on all social media platforms such as Instagram. You can follow the company brand at Jadot Diamo, or else they can follow my personal page, which is I am Mathapelo. Or they can also go on my personal website, which is I am Mathapelo, and it'll also give you the same credentials for Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn as
Right.
well. I'm also very active there.
And last but not least, Mathapelo, what is your message to the millions of kids out there who are now finishing school, who are now thinking about starting a career? What are maybe one or two success factors they should consider?
Oh yeah, the one of the success factors is that even when they go to school or they're going to they're going to get employed by the thing. The one thing I wish that I'd done is that I wish I'd started my entrepreneurial journey sooner. So
Right.
whether you're 19, you're 20, you're 25, if you could start your entrepreneurial journey and sooner, that is like the best thing that you can ever do yourself. And I think also when you go into your entrepreneurial journey and you want to see success in the business that you're going to build, you must actually choose something that you love doing. Never put money forward as of you trying to be a millionaire. More so, you should start you must start going to something that you really enjoy, because that's gonna be the one that makes the money come to you. But most importantly, just start. Starting a
Right.
business is just start. Don't, even if
There
you
we
don't have
go.
a proper plan, just start. Yeah.
Okay, just start. Well,
Yeah.
Mathapelo, thank you so much for sharing your story and inspiring
Thank
us and
you
showing us a
so
way.
Thank you so much, Nick. I truly appreciate the invitation. It was a lovely speaking to you, and I look forward to see more young, people in my industry, more women, especially in the manufacturing industry. And I look forward to at least being a stepping stone or a pebble into growing the industry that we are currently in. Contributing something to the country.